When you're in business, the first thing you need to understand is this: challenges are not optional, they are guaranteed. If you've chosen this path, you didn't sign up for comfort, you signed up for growth. And growth doesn't happen in the easy moments. It happens when you face the kind of resistance that forces you to stretch, to adapt, to become more than you were yesterday. The reason most people quit on their business is not because they weren't talented, not because they didn't have resources, not even because they lacked ideas. They quit because they expected the road to be smooth, and the first time it wasn't, they assumed it meant they were failing. But let me tell you something, if you're experiencing challenges right now, that's not proof of your failure. That's proof that you're moving. If you weren't taking steps forward, if you weren't trying something, you wouldn't have anything pushing back against you. Resistance shows up because progress is happening. Think about it like this. When you go to the gym and you lift weights, the resistance is what makes you stronger. If you picked up a weight that was too light, it wouldn't change you. You'd go through the motion, but your muscles wouldn't grow. Business works the same way. Every obstacle is a weight you're meant to lift. And the heavier it feels, the stronger it can make you if you choose to face it instead of avoiding it. That's why the very first step to break through any business challenge is awareness. Because the truth is, most people aren't even fighting the real battle. They're swinging in the dark, hoping that something will break, but they've never stopped to actually identify what they're up against. You cannot solve a problem you haven't defined. You can't break through a wall if you don't even know which wall you're running into. Awareness is powerful because it takes the invisible and makes it visible. The things that feel overwhelming shrink the moment you name them. Ask yourself, what exactly am I fighting right now? Is it a lack of strategy? Is it a lack of confidence in myself? Is it a lack of resources like money or time? Or maybe it's not even it's distraction. It's trying to do too many things at once. Until you know what the real barrier is, every effort you make is just guessing. And guessing burns energy, but rarely moves you forward. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're driving your car and it suddenly starts shaking. You can ignore it. You can turn up the radio so you don't hear the sound, but does that fix the problem? No. At some point, that car is going to stop in the middle of the road. The smart driver doesn't pretend nothing's wrong. The smart driver pulls over, checks under the hood, and finds out what's causing it. Business is the same. Ignoring the problem never makes it go away. Pretending you're fine when you're not doesn't make you stronger. It makes you stuck. Awareness is pulling over, looking under the hood, and saying, okay, what's really going on here? The second part of awareness is honesty. You cannot be aware if you're not honest with yourself. Sometimes the hardest challenge is admitting the truth. Maybe your strategy isn't working. Maybe your marketing isn't clear. Maybe you're overestimating what you can handle alone. And maybe, just maybe, the challenge isn't external at all. It's internal. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. And here's the thing, those internal battles are just as real, just as important, and just as necessary to face as the external ones. But if you never slow down long enough to see them, they'll keep holding you back while you wonder why nothing's changing. Business challenges feel overwhelming because they're often a blur. You feel pressure, you feel stress, you feel like nothing's working, but it's all fog. Awareness cuts through the fog. When you write down the exact challenge, when you give it a name, suddenly you realize it's not this big monster that can't be tamed. It's something specific, and something specific can be solved. You see, in business, clarity is your compass. If you're sailing through a storm, it doesn't matter how strong your ship is. If you don't know where you're headed, the waves will toss you around until you're lost. But the moment you point your compass in the right direction, you can adjust, you can steer, you can move. Awareness is that compass. It doesn't make the storm go away, but it tells you where to go. It shows you where the winds are strongest so you can shift your sails. It gives you the confidence that even though the storm is here, you are not powerless inside it. I want you to think about the last time you faced a challenge and didn't stop to get clear about it. How much time did you waste worrying? How much energy did you spend guessing? How many nights did you lose sleep replaying scenarios that weren't even real? That's the cost of living without awareness. The challenge itself wasn't the biggest problem. It was the confusion around it. Clarity saves you from that. It gives you back your energy, your focus, your power. So when you hit a business challenge, the very first thing you do is not panic, not rush, not quit. It's pause. Pause long enough to ask the right questions. What is this really about? Where is this really coming from? What part of this is in my control? And what part is just noise I've been carrying? When you do this, the wall that looked unbreakable suddenly looks manageable. It's not 100 problems, it's one. And one problem can be solved. I'll say it again, awareness is step one. Without it, every other step is built on shaky ground. But with it, you give yourself a foundation. Challenges are not here to destroy you. They're here to direct you. They're signals telling you where growth is required, where change is necessary, where courage is needed. And once you see them clearly, once you call them out, they lose their power to intimidate you. They stop being monsters in the dark and become obstacles on a path you now know how to walk. So don't fear challenges. Don't run from them. See them, name them, understand them. Because once you do, you've already taken the first and most important step toward breaking through them. And the truth is, half the battle is simply knowing what battle you're in. When we talk about breaking through business challenges, the first step we discussed was awareness, seeing the problem for what it really is. But once you've named it, once you've identified exactly what's standing in your way, the question becomes, what do you do about it? And this is where most people either rise or stay stuck, because the second step is ownership. Now, let me be clear, ownership doesn't mean everything is your fault. Sometimes the economy shifts, sometimes clients walk away, sometimes unexpected things happen that you never saw coming. Ownership is not about blame, it's about responsibility. And responsibility is power. Because the moment you say, this may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility, you give yourself permission to take control. The people who remain stuck in business challenges are the ones waiting for someone else to come fix it. They wait for the market to get better. They wait for the right partner. They wait for conditions to change. But the leaders, the ones who break through, don't wait. They take ownership. They say, this is my challenge, and if it's in my life, then I'm the one who gets to do something about it. Think about how easy it is to blame. Blame feels comforting in the moment. It lets you point the finger and say, see, it's not me, it's them. It's not me, it's the economy. It's not me, it's the customers who don't understand. But here's the problem with blame. The second you give the problem to someone else, you also hand over the solution. And if the solution is in their hands, then you're powerless. Ownership pulls that power back into your hands. It says, I may not like the situation I'm in, but as long as it's mine, I have the authority to change it. That shift alone changes everything, because suddenly you're not stuck, you're in motion. Suddenly you're not a victim of your business, you're the driver of it. Now, once you take ownership, the third step comes into play, and that's adaptability. And if ownership gives you power, adaptability gives you flexibility. You see, most people fail not because they're not working hard, but because they're working hard on the wrong plan. They keep forcing something that isn't working because they're afraid of letting go. But adaptability is understanding that success is not about sticking to one rigid path. It's about adjusting the path until you find the one that works. Look at the greatest businesses in history. None of them look the same as when they first started. They evolved, they shifted, they pivoted. They took feedback, they responded to the environment, they made changes when changes were needed. Adaptability is not weakness, it's wisdom. Think about water. Water doesn't fight the rock in its way. It doesn't demand the rock move. It doesn't complain that the rock exists. It simply flows around it, over it, under it, but it never stops moving forward. And in time, that same water can carve valleys, can shape landscapes, can create paths where none existed. That's the power of adaptability. Your business challenge is just a rock in the river. If you remain rigid, you'll crash against it over and over until you break. But if you remain adaptable, you'll find a way around it and you'll keep moving. I know this firsthand. I've seen people cling to strategies that no longer work. They say, but this is what I've always done. This is what worked before. And they keep trying the same approach, expecting different results, and every time they fail, they get more discouraged. But the truth is, the world changes. Customers change. Markets change. Technology changes. And if you refuse to adapt, you get left behind. Ownership says, it's my responsibility. Adaptability says, It's my opportunity to change. Combine those two, and suddenly the wall in front of you doesn't seem so permanent anymore. Here's the challenge. Adaptability requires humility. It requires admitting that what you thought would work might not be working. And that's not easy. It hurts to let go of ideas you believed in. It's uncomfortable to say, I need to try something new. But humility is the price of progress. Pride keeps you stuck. Humility lets you grow. And the moment you give yourself permission to change course, you open the door to new possibilities you couldn't see before. So, let me put it this way. Business challenges are like storms. Ownership is you saying, I'm the captain of this ship. Adaptability is you adjusting the sails. You cannot control the wind, but you can control how you respond to it. Some people throw up their hands in the storm and say, well, that's it. Nothing I can do. Others grab the wheel, shift the sails, and find a way through. The storm is the same for both. The difference is the mindset. And here's what's powerful. When you choose ownership and adaptability, challenges stop being threats and start being teachers. Every setback teaches you something new. Every failure gives you feedback. Every adjustment sharpens your skill. You start realizing that the challenge isn't here to destroy you. It's here to shape you. And suddenly, instead of resenting it, you start respecting it. You start asking, what is this challenge here to teach me? How can I adapt? How can I grow? That question alone can change your business. So let me ask you this. What challenge are you facing right now that you've been blaming on someone else? What obstacle have you been resisting instead of adapting to? What plan have you been holding on to so tightly, even though deep down you know it's not working anymore? What would happen if, just for a moment, you said, this is mine. I own this. And because I own it, I can change it. What would happen if you stopped fighting to make the old way work and instead opened yourself up to a new way? Because here's the truth. Ownership without adaptability is control without movement. Adaptability without ownership is movement without direction. But when you put them together, when you say, this is mine and I am willing to change, you unlock the path forward. And that's how you break through. That's how you take a challenge that looked impossible and turn it into an opportunity. So remember this. Step 2 is ownership. Step 3 is adaptability. They work hand in hand. They're not just principles for business, they're principles for life. Own your situation. Adapt your response. And when you do, there won't be a challenge strong enough to hold you down. Because you'll realize the truth, the challenge is not the end of your story. It's the test that prepares you for the next chapter of it. Once you've taken ownership of your challenge and chosen to adapt, the next question is this: how do you actually move forward? How do you turn those decisions into real momentum when the pressure is heavy and the obstacles feel bigger than you? And this is where steps 4 through 7 come in. These are the habits, the daily choices, the mindset shifts that turn small actions into breakthroughs. Step 4 is resourcefulness. And I want you to understand this deeply. Nobody ever built a business because they had unlimited resources. In fact, most of the greatest businesses were born in scarcity. They didn't have enough money. They didn't have the perfect team. They didn't have all the tools. But what they did have was creativity. They looked at what they had in their hands and asked, how can I make this enough? How can I stretch this further? How can I turn this little into more? That's resourcefulness. It's not waiting for perfect conditions. It's doing the most with the conditions you've got. You might think you need more capital, more connections, more experience. But what you really need is more creativity. Think about inventors, about innovators. They don't complain about what's missing. They maximize what's present. And every time you choose resourcefulness over excuses, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. Resourcefulness is not about having everything. It's about making something out of anything. Step 5 is consistency. And this is the one that trips people up more than anything else, because everyone can work hard for a day. Everyone can grind for a week. Everyone can push when they're motivated. But breakthroughs don't come from one burst of effort. They come from steady, relentless, repeated strikes. Imagine trying to break down a wall. If you swing the hammer once and stop, the wall doesn't move. If you swing it twice and quit, the wall still stands. But if you keep hitting it day after day, eventually the cracks appear and eventually the wall falls. Consistency is boring, but it's also powerful. Most business challenges don't fall because of brilliance. They fall because of persistence. And every time you choose to show up, even when it's hard, even when it's repetitive, you're proving that you're the kind of person who doesn't just chase success, but earns it. Now, step 6 is perspective. And this one is about how you choose to see your challenges, because your perspective shapes your experience. When you see a setback as failure, you feel defeated. When you see that same setback as feedback, you feel empowered. The truth is, most of the things you call failures today will turn out to be the foundation for tomorrow. That client who rejected you taught you how to sharpen your pitch. That product that didn't sell showed you what your audience doesn't want. That strategy that fell flat forced you to innovate. You're not losing, you're learning. And if you can shift your perspective, you'll realize that every obstacle carries information that makes you better. Perspective takes away the sting of failure and replaces it with the strength of wisdom. I'll give you an image. Life is like climbing a mountain. From the bottom, the rocks and the paths look like problems. But from the top, those same rocks were the very steps that got you higher. The obstacles didn't block your path. They were your path. Perspective is remembering that the view always looks different once you rise above. And that brings us to step 7, resilience. Resilience is not about never falling down. It's about rising every single time you do. And in business, let me tell you, you will fall. You will face rejection. You will lose deals. You will make mistakes. You will try things that don't work. That's guaranteed. But defeat is not guaranteed, because defeat only happens when you don't get back up. Resilience is the difference between people who stop at setbacks and people who use setbacks as fuel. It's what separates those who quit after the first storm from those who sail through 100 storms and come out stronger. Resilience is not about pretending the pain doesn't hurt. It's about deciding the pain will not end you. It's about taking the hit, feeling it, learning from it, and standing taller because of it. Every scar tells a story. Every scar says, I went through something, but I made it through. And in business, resilience is your greatest asset, because it means no matter how many times you're knocked down, you're never out of the game. So let's tie it all together. You want to break through a business challenge, start with awareness. See the problem for what it is. Then take ownership. Stop waiting for someone else to fix it and claim responsibility. After that, stay adaptable. Don't cling to a broken plan when a new path is available. Then lean on resourcefulness. Use what you've got and make it enough. Show up with consistency, because small strikes repeated over time break the biggest walls. Keep your perspective. See setbacks not as failures, but as feedback. And finally, never lose resilience, because falling is inevitable, but rising is always a choice. When you put these 7 steps together, something powerful happens. Challenges don't shrink, but your capacity grows. Problems don't vanish, but your ability to solve them multiplies. And suddenly, the wall that felt impossible becomes just another milestone on the journey. You start realizing that challenges were never meant to stop you. They were meant to shape you. They're not roadblocks, they're building blocks. And every single one you face, every single one you rise through, prepares you for the next level of your business and your life. So the next time you're staring down a business challenge and you feel overwhelmed, I want you to remember this clarity: ownership, adaptability, resourcefulness, consistency, perspective, resilience. 7 steps. And if you commit to them, no obstacle will have the power to hold you back. Because the truth is, it's not the challenge that decides your future. It's how you respond to it. And the moment you decide to rise, to adapt, to persist, to see differently, to keep going, that's the moment you've already won. The challenge is not the end of your story. It's the proof that your story is still being written.